Good. What's up, man? How you doing?
Chilling. Cold. It's cold morning.
So this is just going to be like just more like a conversation, not like just me asking you questions and you answer. Like chilling.
Chill. I'm always chilling. That's the one benefit about. That's the benefit about writing poetry. You're always just chilling.
All right.
I don't think other poets would agree.
What's up, guys? It's Bones in the Booth. Welcome to The Right Vibes, Tales from Tuleburg Press on K.W.D.C 93.5 Stockton, brought to you by the Fierce Mustang Media Group. I'll be your host, and I'm thrilled to bring you a special series showcasing some talented artists who have collaborated with the Tuleburg Press here in Stockton, California. In this series, we'll dive into the creative minds of artists, writers, authors, poets and rappers, educators, and all different kinds of artists, exploring their journeys, their inspirations, and the impact of their work. Whether you're a literature lover or a fan of lyrical genius, there's something here for everybody. Today, we have Melchor. What's up, man? How you doing?
What's up, dude? I'm chilling. I'm good.
How's your morning going? Thanks for getting up and coming in to do this with me.
Yeah, for sure. I'm always down to talk. That's my... I made a trade of it. That's my thing.
Nice. Well, let's kick it off with what is it? Explain to our listeners, like, what is it that you do? What are you into? What is your creative outlet and medium?
I'm what they call a jack of all trades, master of none. I got a little bit of everything. Over the last couple decades, I've just sort of been a general performer, man. I've kind of got into everything I was interested in. So I write poetry, I perform poetry, was doing slam a lot back when I was younger. I play music, I write songs, I play guitar and I sing, I rap, I make beats. I do some comedy here and there. I've done some improv.
Oh, nice.
I worked on some plays. I've wrote a couple plays.
Who doesn't like to laugh?
Yeah. And I mean, comedy is essential. I think like that will, in talking to me, I think everybody eventually sees like how strong comedy is as like a backbone to my just personality, and so every creative endeavor definitely has like
some comedic
comedy as a backbone. And so I think through comedy too, it got me the energy of performing is so much more enticing when like you can make people laugh. So like when I feel like no matter if I'm playing music or performing a poem or something, if I can make the crowd laugh, like that gives me the peak energy. So
feel more accomplished.
Yeah. So it's like,
I mean, when I go to concerts and stuff, if like in between the songs, the guitarist or singer does something that can make us all laugh, like it just seems like a more fun show.
Well, that's what I'm saying. And I think like one thing that comedy, I mean, so many things, comedy informs my performance in general. Like every time I perform, like this last weekend, I did a reading and afterward people are always like, have you thought about doing comedy? And I'm like,
actually, it's funny you say that.
Like, that's what that was. Like, what was I doing between the poems? Like, That was comedy. Like, so I just really got good at poems or music just as a vehicle for jokes, dude. I just wanted to be a comedian, but didn't want to write a whole set.
You could probably, I'm sure you could, or maybe even have already attempted, do like somehow a mesh of, comedy, but in form of poetry.
Like people are good,
like a
dude.
Bunch of funny haikus.
I think there's some people who are really good at doing like funny poems, and especially slam poems. There's been some really, really funny ones over the years. I've tried to like write a totally funny one, but I feel like I'm better when I'm being a mix of like serious and funny. Like that's the clown in me, dude. Like from comedy too, you know what I mean? Like all this stuff, like that. I need to have the balance. Like the comedy feels stronger when it's next to something serious or sad or something.
Yeah, you gotta have that contrast. Really be able to tell. Yeah. Now, can you tell us a little bit about your journey and how you got into poetry? And, writing your raps and comedy and all your writing in general.
Yeah, I think writing is what it really comes down to. Just like fundamentally, I'm just a writer. I have ideas. I like to jot them down and then flesh them out. And however they turn out, like however, whichever medium feels the best for them. Like if it feels the best as a song or if it feels the best as a poem. Like, I think I kind of like lead myself. I let myself be led by the idea itself. And that comes from, I think, my earliest years of just having unchecked A.D.H.D as a child, dude. Like,
like no, dude, something with all these thoughts.
I was just like so into so many things, and like I wanted to know how everything worked. I wanted to play music. I wanted to skateboard. I wanted to, I wanted to write poems. I wanted to direct plays. I wanted to do improv. I wanted to be a stand-up comic. But the very first thing I wanted to be as a kid was a clown. Like, I was like, I want to be a clown. I want to do magic tricks. I want to do comedy.
You want to be an entertainer.
Yeah, I want to do magic tricks. I want to do comedy. I want to tell, and make balloon animals and juggle. And I ended up learning all of those things and sort of like staying true to that original desire to be like a clown, a performer, I took that into every other interest I had. So when I got into poetry through rap music, essentially through my brother got me into pretty much everything.
Yeah,
my parents were both really into music.
Yeah.
So I always had that, and then through that, my brother got me into hip hop and rap, like in the late 80s, early 90s.
Yeah.
I was like a young kid listening to a lot of rap.
Yeah, same. As I've told you, before off camera, my older brother got me into hip hop.
Yeah.
Got me into Living Legends, which in the long run got me into your brother.
My brother. Yeah. Yeah. So
who is a great photographer, by the way.
Snap Jackson, shout out.
Yeah.
He'll come up a lot too. He also did the cover of the book. And so through him getting into rap, and then him and his friends were also into like the beatniks, like Jack Kerouac and Gregory Corso and Lawrence Ferlinghetti, like the San Francisco beats kind of. And so that got me into poetry. And then through being interested in rap and poetry, that got me into people like Saul Williams, who is an amazing musician and just multimedia artist. But I learned him first as a slam poet.
Okay.
And he had a movie called Slam that was like about a guy who starts a slam program and like gets into slam poetry in a jail. But it's pretty good. He stars in it. And then through him, Sage Francis, I found he also was a slam poet as well as a rapper. Slug from Atmosphere was doing slam stuff sometimes.
Honestly, that's the first name I recognized.
Yeah, so like
I'm not too familiar with poets, but yeah.
So like these people were like rappers and poets, and so like that showed me that there was a direct link to them.
Oh yeah, like
via slam poetry. A link to both of them at the same time. So I got into slam poetry like the early 2000s, and writing has just always been how I put my ideas down. So like when I have an idea, I would write it in a notebook. A lot of those notebooks I still have, and a lot of those ideas were so bad because I look at my stuff from like high school or just out of high school. I'm like, ouch. But always writing was just there as the backbone. And so poetry just is a super, if you're a writer, poetry is so accessible because it's just right there, like,
yeah, I feel like, hip hop and poetry go
absolutely
pretty much hand in hand. They're,
and I
twins,
think
just like slightly off.
They're just different. I mean, it's all rhythm. It's all meter. Like poetry has meter, poetry has rhythm, poetry has rhyme, even if it's not the end of the line rhyming, like A-B type stuff, like there is internal rhyme in poetry. There's all kind of stuff.
Different intricate ways.
Structurally, they're very similar. And being a kid, listening to a lot of rap, poetry became a natural extension of that. I would write verses, but then sometimes I'd be like, well, this doesn't feel like it should be a verse. It feels like it should just be something else.
Something spoken.
And it would become a poem, and then as I got older, I just like wanted to write, I also played instruments since I was a young kid. So started playing guitar in high school, started wanting to write, some of the things I wrote down felt like they could be song lyrics or something. So started trying that. And so I kind of just always did all of them. And poetry just became sort of the more prominent one just by means of the work I did, because I did some arts advocacy work with some nonprofits for some years in Stockton with Our Words and Tama Brisbane, she was the inaugural poet laureate of Stockton. And I worked with her and coached a youth slam team and did a lot of outreach and stuff in those years. So around then, it kind of, poetry became the thing that I did, like most. It felt like just by default of, I was working working within the field. So I was performing a lot, and it became just something more steady, which would eventually much later lead to the book.
Now, do you just go by your name Melchor, or do you have any other alias or artist or stage name you like to go by?
Yeah, I've wrote under a couple things. I have my sort of like singer-songwriter stuff I called the Wannabe Trio for a long time.
Who's the trio?
Just me.
Just you?
The Wannabe Trio. Yeah, because
you in 3 different versions of
yeah,
yourself?
because a lot of times I'm just playing everything myself, or so I just have always used it, the Wannabe Trio. Actually, no matter how many people are in, because I've had it as like a band before, and whether there's 3 or 4 people, we still call it the Wannabe Trio. I just think that's funny because, and no matter what, it works.
Yeah.
You're either under and you want to be a trio, you're a trio and you're just a trio of wannabes,
or there's too many
and you still want to be a trio. So I did that, and then rap stuff I've done under Monikar, which is the solo rap stuff I did, and then I've done some rap stuff under Stilt Lives with a buddy of mine named Tim, and I think that's all of the stuff I make. Like my creative output goes under my name, moniker, or Stilt Lives.
Nice, just so people might know. Look up all those names to find these.
You can also
different aspects of Melchor.
Luckily, my name is so not common that if you Google my name, a lot of the top results are just my socials and like my websites and stuff. So that's always been a big benefit. I learned to like that later when like promoting myself. And just Google my name, you'll find all the stuff.
So this next question I had, you pretty much I think already touched on it, but you might have another thought. Like, what role does poetry and hip hop play in your life? But I guess you kind of touched on that with trying to navigate your ADHD and get all your thoughts out. Have you ever seen Orange County with Jack Black?
Oh man, a long time ago.
I just always think of that when people mention, like how you said you have all these ideas and stuff. I think of that time Jack Black's riding in the car and he's driving. He's just like, I just got. And he's like smacks it. He's like, all these ideas burning through my skull, man.
Yeah, it feels like that. Now, poetry and hip hop, like rap music have been just integral to my entire life. I got into them as a young kid because my brother is about 5.5 years older than me. So when I was like 6, 7, he was already like, 11, 12, getting into middle school, getting really into rap and getting really into stuff, so by the time I was 10, I had a Walkman, it was the early 90s, and I had like a Walkman with my headphones and a little cassette tape carrier that I would take everywhere with me, and I would go to Tower Records to get new releases. Like I would walk there or take the bus, like as a super young kid in middle school. So hip hop has just been always very prominent in my life. It's just something I still listen to a lot, and poetry also became something like that just as early, really.
It sounds like I don't know, I feel like escape is too strong of a word, but just like, somewhere to go, somewhere to be.
Yeah, and I think more than anything, I think hip hop also showed me that like through writing, you process, you know what I mean? And like so much can be processed in a rap song because you can say so many things. Like you can whatever your idea, however profound or otherwise, like you can say a lot in a rap song. And so that kind of taught me, a good deal about writing poetry, because when I'm writing a poem, I can't say as much as I could in a rap song.
So you really got to choose your words.
So you have to be a little more, so like, and the lyricism of
frugal,
and the lyricism of both are worked through a little differently, but I find that they have both just been huge for how I process the world. So I think a lot of how they've become staples has just been through that. Like I've processed so much of the world through listening to rap music, through writing it, through writing poems, through reading poems, going to slams. Like so much of my life has been processed by those things, since as early as my self-awareness can remember, from being a self-aware kid, the poetry and hip hop have been like the staples, two huge staples in how I process the world. So, and still to this day, they're two of the main three things I do. So
nice. And so, what inspires your creative process, and how typically do you approach creating new, either poems or hip hop or your plays, like your new works?
I think what inspires me is the human element of stuff. I really enjoy when I'm reading something or I'm looking for art to take in. I really appreciate the stuff that speaks to the shared human experience. Like
some of the more people can, well, not necessarily more people, that someone somewhere can resonate and relate with.
But just that fundamental of like, this is about my personal experience through my lens, but kind of focusing on the things that we all kind of share. We all experience certain things, whether it's from cause A or cause B, we each experience grief similarly, and I think a lot of what we're trying to do when we write anything is just like say, look, I felt this.
Express
this is what I felt, and
express your truths.
Yeah, and like, but to me too, what inspires me too is the drive to say it in a way that sounds kind of cool, and I think that comes from hip hop. Like, so whenever I'm writing a poem or even writing a non-rap song, like some other genre of song, part of me is like, I want it to be personal, but I want it to sound kind of cool, to have like a little its own little flair, and that comes from hip hop, so I think the lyricism, it really, those two things inspire me to take my feelings, and not just, my poetry isn't just like me expressing my feelings in like a journal form or something, it's like me taking those feelings and being like, how can I flip this and make it sound kind of tight? Like how do what kind of metaphors can I use that like people will hear and they'll be like, oh, that, I've almost thought that before or something, so
I like things where it's like people, you got to kind of be really paying attention to catch it. And like if or some kind of things. And that's and I try to
I think I try to like straddle that line too between, I don't want to be like inaccessible, and I feel like I make a point to not be overly erudite or something, and use words that people aren't like erudite. It's hella stupid, but that's like, it's just, that word's the best word for what it means. Like, erudition, like just knowing big words and like using big fancy words. Like I try to stay away from that unless it's like absolutely necessary, because I feel like the point of,
you don't want anyone to feel alienated.
Yeah, the point of art, the point of me making something is to try to reach as many people as possible, so part of that is on me as the creator to like find a nice balance of being true to what I want to say and saying it in a stylish way or whatever, but also, making sure I'm not limiting the scope of who can read my shit. I don't want somebody to have
that's a good mindset.
I don't want somebody to have to sit with a thesaurus while they're reading my work. It seems contrary to
it'll probably turn people off. Like, all right, I don't want to try to read this.
It seems contrary to the point. I don't want to spoon feed them and just be like, again, it's not like a journal. I'm not writing I'm not writing a journal and then just giving you my journal entry, but I also don't want to make it a incalculable puzzle or something for people to struggle through. So I think hip hop has really informed my poetry in that sense too, because hip hop strives to be accessible. Like it uses slang and the language, contemporary language and vernacular.
Words people can understand.
Yeah, common vernacular and stuff. And I always have loved that hip hop stays on that because it makes sure that it's aimed at the common person, we're all the common person. I'm a common person, and I like being a common person.
Yeah.
I like being a commoner in this empire.
Nice. So, what themes do you usually explore in your poetry? Why are they important to you?
A lot of the themes in my stuff are a little more abstract. I use just like a lot of not that the themes themselves are abstract, but I guess how I express them is a little abstract. But the themes are heavy on like loss, detachment, sort of the dancing with uncertainty and certainty, and like how that balances. A lot of my stuff kind of plays on the idea of knowing that maybe what we're doing is small, but ultimately it's, the most we can do sometimes is just make something. And so I think the theme of, that kind of uncertainty, the existential uncertainty. And, so there's heavier themes, but a lot of it is love poems too. I'm a poet.
Yeah.
So we write love poems, too often probably, but so there's plenty of those in there too. I'm big on, astronomy. Like I'm like an amateur astronomy nerd. And so there's a lot of space, outer space and sort of like a celestial imagery and stuff like that. But like those, I try to all connect again to like my personal human experience. Like it's very much about me processing things happening and trying to make them sound kind of cool though.
Yeah.
Trying to make them sound kind of cool.
So how do you stay motivated and find inspiration in both poetry and hip hop?
I think if you're going to do that in anything, you have to really be alive. And that sounds dumb, I think, to some degree. Like, like you have to be alive insofar as like you have to be feeling stuff. I think so much of what we intake and so much of our shared output is sort of numbed. We've sort of become numbed by so many outside forces, when really what we need is to be more vulnerable and open to the world. So to me, the only way for me to stay motivated or to stay inspired is to be completely open to like the entirety of the world and the entirety of existence, and how that comes into my individual experience and the experience that I share with the people around me, whether it be locally or globally. We're all here at a single moment in time on this one planet. And so to me, if you're open to all of the world and all of the feelings that are in it, I think art is a natural response to that. And I think that's why it appealed to me as a vulnerable kid, who was into being vulnerable. Like it's always appealed to me to be like open and transparent and let people see what I'm feeling. That's always,
I always struggle. Like I'm like on the balance of like, 'cause I don't know. In a sense, I don't want to let people know too much of what I have going on. I like to keep things private, but at the same time, I like to share and let people know if something's bothering me or if I'm upset or feel some type of way.
Yeah.
But then I'm also like, I'm a bartender, and like there's a bunch of regulars and stuff, and like they know me and they know my girlfriend and outside life, but like to an extent, because like I'm also kind of like, man, You don't need to know my life like that.
Yeah. And I don't need to tell everybody everything, but I kind of do.
I admire people that are, because I have girls I work with and they're just chatted up and they know each other's whole lives and stuff. And I kind of admire that, but I'm like, it can't be me.
Yeah, I'm the type of person that gives the casual conversation far too much personal information. Like, I will get very personal with people in casual conversation just by my nature. I don't even mean to. I'm just,
but I feel like
I'm so willing to go there, if they want to talk about, my, they're like, oh, my dog, she's like getting old. And I will just immediately be like, oh yeah, my cat was 18 and just passed away a couple years ago. I was so devastated. And, I knew I was going to be devastated, but it was so much worse. And then I start talking about grief. And when you lose a person, that you can have, and I just go in and they're just like sometimes they're like weirded out. And sometimes but sometimes they open up and they're like,
maybe they needed that.
When we lost our dog that my son had his entire life, he was really sad. And, they can be like people. And then you end up connecting with somebody over something, and then you start talking about through any small opening, you can expand the connection with a person through even the most casual conversation. Mm-hmm. And I'm not out there to have casual conversations. It's just life is not long enough for me to indulge casual conversation too often. I'm trying to have even if it's just for a minute, we can be real with each other. You know what I mean? Like, even if you're just ringing up my groceries, like, we can be real.
Yeah, there's certain,
even if I'm just making you coffee or serving your food.
Yeah, the social etiquette of casual conversation. Sometimes I'm like, that's so dumb.
Yeah, yeah. It's like
certain things is like, if like in my head, I'm like, oh, I feel like I need to say that, but then I'm like, why?
Yeah. And so it's a strange, and it's again my ADHD and my neurodivergence that really plays into how much I'm just willing to talk to people. I'm just willing to talk, and if somebody,
you're in the right spot for that.
And if somebody wants the conversation to get more serious, I'm ready for it to get more serious. If they want it to go this way, I'm ready for it to go that way. I just like talking, man. Like, talking to people is a pinnacle up there too. And I think this is just, poems, songs, whatever, is just me talking to people. Just one-sided. I get to just talk at them.
Can you share a bit about your creative process? You're writing your poem versus creating your music.
Yeah, I think early on an idea forms and I kind of have a good grasp on which medium I feel like I want it to be because of how the idea comes to me. Usually an idea comes to me in a line or two, and I'll think,
build off that.
Oh, I like this line. I like this little section, whatever it is and I'll think, it feels like the middle, or it feels like the end, feels like the beginning. Mm-hmm. And usually from right then, just that how I've written that initial idea will kind of be like, oh, this sounds like it could be the beginning of a verse, a rap verse, or this sounds like it needs to be sung. It sounds like I need to slow this down and these words need to be more melodic and longer. Or I'll be like, oh, this sounds like this sounds like a good end for a poem. And I'll just kind of have somehow one of those will spark. And so I'll start working on it as that. Every once in a while, I'll be like, nah, this needs to be something else. And I'll change. I'll be like, okay, I could take this idea and make it a verse better. Or I could take this idea and make it a poem better. And so every once in a while that'll happen. But I think in my creative process at this point, I've come to trust that intuition that I have of which direction to go with an idea. And so once I have that line or those few lines, those will kind of spark a couple other lines, and I'll just have those. And then I'll start thinking okay, this is the idea. And I'll see the bigger picture, and then I will, prepare mentally, however we prepare mentally to creatively think. And I will just kind of let my brain run. I think of it a lot as the same as how I like crossword puzzles a lot. And I feel like when I'm in the zone for a crossword puzzle, I'm just letting my mind do what it will. I'm reading every single clue. Mm-hmm. I'm not trying to do one at a time. I'm reading a whole bunch and just letting my mind bounce around and bounce around, just connect things loosely. And I think hip hop has kind of taught me that too, that, and poetry as well, that you can take a lot of different ideas and put them into one piece. Like, so not everything is as disparate as we think it is. A lot of things can be related to each other if you find the right metaphorical bridge or whatever. And so I think keeping my brain loose like that, and just kind of, okay, I have these ideas for lines, and just kind of reading those over and just letting them, and over the course of whatever it is, a day or a week or a month, I'll come back to those lines and more will form. And at some point I'll see, I'll start working more linear, but I do kind of like piece things in. Like, I'll have ideas like, okay, now I'll reach a point, as I start working downward, I'll reach a point and think, oh, I have that other idea that would probably work right here. Let's see how I can fit that in now, and sort of do that. And that's kind of become the process mainly for my poetry. With my rap stuff, it's definitely more linear, just I think because of the more rhythmic and more the rhythmic nature and the higher focus on rhyming at some higher level than my poetry does. My poetry is pretty free verse, doesn't rhyme. Yeah. But raps, I have to think a little differently. So I end up working more linear because it kind of just works easier for me to do that way. Yeah. Because then I'm able to keep that rhythm and that, the tempo and the track. And then, it just kind of works out better that way. When I'm writing a song on guitar, that's like a much longer process because I'm just kind of playing the chord progression over and over, letting my brain work with not just the words, but finding a melody. So that kind of takes a little longer. So each process has its like varying differences, but how they all start out is pretty much the same. Just I get an idea that really starts with like one or two lines, and from that I try to grow.
Do you have any specific rituals or habits or a certain way you do things when you want to sit down, or just whenever it comes to you, wherever you are? I'm kind of, now I've developed into the whenever it comes to me, just as I've adapted to technology, and because I'm also not the type, I feel like there's a lot of people who fought the technological shift in things like, especially writing. Like, a lot of writers are really attached to handwriting things. And I'm not saying I'm not. I love handwriting stuff. My handwriting, I think, is like one of my best qualities. I honestly, my handwriting's terrible. It looks like a fourth grader. Oh, see, I've always prided myself on my handwriting. And so I did so much of it because I was young before computers really had, the internet wasn't a thing till I was like in 5th grade. It was like common people had the internet, with like just after Windows 95 or something. So the internet, even when I was in middle school and high school, was still pretty much in its nascent stages. And so we didn't have a way to store it. There was definitely no storing things on the cloud type situation. We didn't have that. You could have files on your computer. And back then the memory was not big. So low. Yeah. So a few text documents took up so much of your computer space. And so, but as that shifted, starting whenever in the 2000s, that stuff started, in the first decade of the 2000s, when iPhones or stuff like that became more prominent. I didn't fight that wave. And so now I kind of work equally. For a long time, I worked equally on paper and on my phone or on my laptop or something. But now I work most often digitally. I find myself that I don't handwrite nearly as much as I used to. And that's not tragic to me. You voice to text a lot? I do when I'm in the car. Yeah. Because a lot of times I'll have an idea in the car. A lot of ideas actually happen when I'm driving or on my bike. A lot of thinking goes down. And I think it's because you're focused on the driving and your brain otherwise is just doing whatever. It's like we're just letting our brains do whatever. We're hearing the music. We're hearing music from other cars. We're hearing the sound of the vehicles. We're hearing honks and you know what I mean? So you're hearing all this stuff. It's all this input. And if anything, that's how my ADHD has benefited me, I think, as a writer, in all earnestness. I think it's that my brain takes in so much.
Like I'm always paying attention to all the things happening around me. And in the same way that it can be overwhelming, or on the same hand as it can be overwhelming, it can also be of benefit, because when I'm trying to write something, it's good to know what the sounds were.
You're in tune with everything.
It's good to know what was happening in that moment. It's good for me to be able to have documented how the water sounded when I was having this experience, or that the moment I felt this bird made this particular noise, or a car drove by playing this song, whatever you're going to do to connect your experience to like the world around you. And so in that way, my ADHD has been a benefit, and that's why I don't take medication for it. No, I'm just kidding. I probably should, but I'm connected to that aspect of it pretty heavy. Like I do think it's helped me be able to, in learning to cope with it, I have been able to find ways to use it to my benefit.
And that's good. That's good that you find your way to navigate it yourself.
Yeah,
and I feel like a lot of people. I'm 5 years younger than you.
Yeah,
but we're still older compared to a lot of what's going on with the generation where there's a lot of awareness now to ADHD. And
there was none when I was a kid. None.
We didn't have that.
No.
I only found out not too long ago, within like the last year or two. I was saying something at one time about being all over the place or whatever, and then my sister had mentioned, like, do you remember getting tested, when you were a kid? And I was like, what? No. She was like, yeah, like when you were a kid, mom had you tested, and then they had you on medication, but mom did not like how it affected you and like how you were.
It was definitely different medications back then too.
Yeah, she's like, she took you off it because she was just sad, you weren't you anymore. And then I was just like, I do remember in like fourth grade getting like kind of pulled out of class and going to a different classroom that had these different toys and activities and stuff, but I didn't think anything of it. I was just like, oh, cool, look at all this. But looking back, I was like, oh, okay, that answers a lot.
Yeah.
So I never, I don't think to each their own. Maybe some people need, the medication.
Yeah, I'm not anti, like, I don't say any of that to be anti-medication. And I think I actually would benefit from some level of medication.
But it's like we were from the time where we just had to learn to navigate it ourselves.
I just had to adapt. And so I kind of did through art, and I think through stuff like skateboarding to help me like find things I can focus on.
I love the world of skateboarding.
Things that I can focus on and hyper focus on too, that take my attention and like give it a line, give it a direction, so that I'm not all over the place. Like when I'm skating, I'm not thinking about all the stuff happening around me. And that's what I love about it, is that it's so all encompassing, that it takes so much of my mind, that it pulls me out of what my mind is usually doing. And taking in everything, and it makes me just like kind of focus on, I'm not even hearing the sound of my wheels. Sometimes, I'm realizing I'm just like in the trick, like into the movement of the board. And so I think finding things like that help. And in all of that, I think the process is what becomes the focus. I think I'm a process nerd. Like I just like knowing how things work. So learning the process of a skateboard trick, learning the process of how to write a poem, how to bring an audience up or down or make them laugh, or, whether it be with poetry or comedy or whatever. Like these are all just processes that I've at one point or another in my life got obsessed with and was like, how does this process work? Like I want to know, like I want to be able to do that. I saw somebody else do
Heroes.
That show was tight.
Do you remember how he would like get into your brain to see how it worked, how I thought that was a cool twist on the idea of like taking another power too. He just looked at how your brain did it. Yeah.
And his power was that just he was able to understand.
Yeah.
And I was like, damn, that would be me, except I hope I don't kill people.
Yeah. I mean, like, yeah. We're not glorifying
without the serial killer. There is like a redemption arc or whatever they did for him. I can't really remember.
The whole concept of his power is really cool.
But that concept was cool, that it was like a need to understand, like that drove him.
Yeah.
And I think that's the kind of fun for me, is like the process. So being able to like have an idea, turn it into a poem is what was really cool to me. And that's why making a book wasn't really a priority for such a long time until recently. And it wasn't even my priority, really.
So how do you differentiate between writing? Well, I guess you already touched on that. You kind of go with the natural,
Like
how you feel. What
trust
it could
the
be or whatever.
instinct.
So I guess, we did already kind of
Trust the vibe.
Go over that. What challenges have you faced as an artist, and how have you overcome them?
The challenges are mostly, I think, of my own making a lot. Just being all over the place. I have often not committed to stuff as much as I could have at the time, because I was playing music and writing poems and trying to do this and trying to do that. I was never really focused on making one of them my bread and butter or whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
But also I think that was also an intentional thing too, that I never wanted that sort of dependence on
one thing.
Like I just couldn't, it didn't feel right. So I didn't do it. And so most of my challenges have just been the
ADHD.
Yeah, that, but also the existential challenge of like, what am I making this for? How am I doing service to the things I make? Could I do more with them, or could I be more, whatever any performer has at some level, this desire for more people to see them. And I don't ignore that within me. Like, I know that that's something that's in there. So mostly my struggle has been with balancing that versus my real world output and outreach. Like, how much response can I get? If this is my level of output or level of effort, and recognizing that they often correlate for the average creative person. There's the small percentage of people who get like really famous by just doing whatever they're doing, but this is like, I recognize also that I'm one of many, many writers out there doing not just poetry, but poetry, rap music, singer-songwriter stuff, plays. There's so many people now, and it's great. And I don't think my goal was to ever be at like the top, it was just to find ways of doing what I was having fun doing and getting better at in such a way that would connect me to other people. So I think the challenge has been a lot with acceptance. Like, you just accept what art is and what it can do. Not to say it can't do a lot. It does a great deal, but we also have to be realistic, and I know my poems ain't going to change the whole world, but reframing that and thinking like, if my poem can hit even one person, then it's changed them a little bit. And by technicality, it's changed the world. It's
don't answer my future questions. No, I'm kidding.
So it's just like, I think the struggle is always connected to that, and how we see our place in the larger, what's my place in the larger world of poetry? So largely existential stuff, like, and then challenges, sociocultural challenges. Growing up growing up poor in Stockton ain't the most fertile ground to flourish, to bloom, and so also stuff like that. And we live in a very hyper capitalistic society where following your passions and the things you love and doing things you love for human connection aren't always prioritized by the society at large. And so we have to struggle with working jobs and trying to make cool stuff, at the same time as like going to your job at the dock, or at the pet store, or at the coffee shop, or at the Applebee's, or whatever you do. Like, we all just have to do our thing. And I think these struggles, though, I think are what make our experiences not like it's not like they define us, but the struggle, like we find
validation
by finding ways of enrichment through the struggle. We actively are like fighting against our struggle. So I feel that any challenges we face that we've made art through, like that's a victory. And so, you know, the challenges we face can just be things that we use as a little springboards to find something, you know, and it's all we can really do, man. This world is so crazy. This world is like so insane, and writing poems seems so inconsequential a lot of the time, that I gotta like not bring this up when I'm performing. Like I like start talking about this stuff like when I'm on the mic, and then I'm like, people probably don't want to hear this right now.
But you got the mic.
Should just read my poems, but also I got the mic, and so it's like, well, you're forced to listen to me.
Yeah. And so while you have the mic, I know we've mentioned it a couple of times. What is it that you have here? If you want to talk about your book.
Oh, word. Yeah. Drawing it to
Tuleburg. You want to hand me one?
Yeah. So, writing, like I was saying, was always such a performative thing to me. Learning to rap or learning to write poems was always connected intrinsically with me with performing. I just loved the audience performer exchange, like whether I'm in the audience or I'm the performer. I think there's nothing on earth like watching somebody perform any art live. Like that is the pinnacle of how art should be taken in. I mean, painting and sculpting, maybe obviously not, but also it's really to watch a painter paint, or you know, that's like a glimpse not always given, or you know, something that's not always accessible.
I like to see the creative process.
Yeah. So even in that, like, I feel like performance to me has always been the pinnacle. So writing a book or collecting my poems was never really something I gave serious thought to. I also had that struggle of thinking like, I'm just whatever, dude. I just write some poems, and they're not good enough to put in a book or whatever. And for the last decade or so, or better part of a decade, Paula Scheel from Tuleburg, the founder of Tuleburg, and who's also been a mentor of mine for many, many years since I was young, and has helped me with poetry, you know, so much I can't even remember, just giving me books to read or encouraging me to write, and started asking me, you know, when I was going to submit a manuscript, and we should think about publishing a collection. And I was always just saying, I don't know. It just didn't feel, I don't know what my hangups were, honestly, because just last year, as they were having their open submissions again, she kind of hit me up like, you know, we're at open submissions again. And so I thought, well, I'm about to be 40 years old. I think now might be the time for me to give it a shot. So I put together a manuscript and submitted it, and they accepted it. And so we published it in October of last year, October 13th of last year. So we just hit over a year of it being made. And
nice.
Yeah, it's been an interesting experience for me as like I said, as somebody who has always just felt like a performer. To have something physical has been cool. And Tuleburg's super easy to work with. Paula is an outstanding member of the like literary and arts community here.
And this is the manuscript?
Yep, this is what turned into
the manuscript book, turned into.
Yep.
It's called Sorry I'm Late.
Yeah.
How did you come up with that? Because it took you so long to find.
Part of it was that, and also I'm just always late. As you saw this morning, I was late here. I'm constantly tardy, and so and not only that, I ended up actually getting the manuscript to Paula late. She had like asked for it in April, and I got it to her in like July or something. So I was playing on ideas of being late and bouncing them off my partner Heather, and we had I think we had a couple other ways of saying it. And then at one point I was like, sorry, I'm late.
There it is.
And I was like, there it is, because then we make the section titles reasons I was late.
Oh, nice.
And then I was like, okay. And
So
that's that kind of worked how I write everything. Like I had like the idea of like the pieces that I needed to fill in. Like I had the idea for the title, and then very shortly after I had the ideas for like the section titles, I was like, okay, these are going to be like, it's going to be like, sorry, I'm late. I was this. And so being able to do that helped a lot, because then I was, working with a sort of like loose structure that I could fill in.
Mm-hmm.
And so, it was a lot of fun once I again, like a process nerd, once I let myself get into the process of like constructing a book, it became a much more appealing project,
Now, is there like a structure, or is it just a compilation of a bunch of different poems? And you said great photographer, did the cover there.
Great photographer, and also an amazing illustrator. Many people might not know, but if you find him on Instagram, he does post the occasional drawing he does, and he's an exceptional artist, illustrator, painter, just visuals, man. Like he's also a great musician, but like his visuals have really always been peak. And I'm super happy to have him do the cover, because I just couldn't, he was my first choice for it. So I wouldn't have it any other way. And he also refined my idea for the cover, which was really cool, because my idea was like a bunch of clocks with like a bed and a bedside table and a bunch of different clocks like at different times, and maybe some were broken, maybe some were like not working.
That's cool.
But he was like, that's a lot for like a cover of a book. He's like, I'm kind of like doodling, and like that feels like a lot. And as I thought about it, I was like, yeah, that actually is a lot, dude. Like that's like a picture I'd have to make with like a bunch of real clocks, like. And so then he came up with some ideas and came up with just sort of broken alarm clock, and it's all hand lettered and the hand numbered, the clock, which I really appreciate as a comic book fan.
Nice. Yeah. I like it.
And he's also a big comic book head. So like, I like that it has that kind of, that vibe of hand lettering, like is like really strong in early comics and stuff. They like hand lettered all those comics, dude. Like, so it was dope to have him make the font for the clock and everything. So
that's cool. And so, back to the question, it's just a compilation of poems, or is there a structure? Or
we structured it into kind of a thematic skeleton. So like with the reasons I was late, kind of using those as ways to group a bunch of poems that I had. And I had a lot of poems, and my partner Sarah actually helped me like to an inexplicable degree, because she was able to like read a whole bunch of these poems and say, well, these ones fit this theme, these ones fit these themes, these ones fit these themes.
Put these together.
And then I was like, okay, with those themes, with those theme groups in mind, what could be the reason I was late with these shared things, and fitting the ideas I had to those. And, her doing that took a lot of strain off of me, because reading your own stuff and trying to find all of that is really hard, because I start reading my work and then thinking of things I could change.
Overanalyzing. Things you really got to take a step out to get that perspective.
And it's tough for me to do that with my own work. Very, very hard. With other people's work, I'm great at it. Like I'm great at proofreading for people. I'm great at like helping people make their papers better. Like when I was coaching the slam team, that was a good exercise in how to help people write their poems, But when I'm trying to do it for my own self, it's like I start getting real critical. I start wanting to change stuff. So
as cliche as it sounds, we are always our own worst critics.
That is definitely my reality. So, so it's poems that I've written over the last, probably about a decade. I think maybe the oldest ones in there are from about 2014, 2015.
Can you share an excerpt or one of your favorites, or one you're particularly proud of?
Yeah, I like to share this one a lot, because it kind of speaks to the various modes of my personality. It's called "I'm Not in a Room, I'm in a Lake." I daydream of small things. Eyelashes clumped together, a heartbeat of static read through stethoscope hands, an indescribable feeling adrift on an inexplicable endlessness. You know, small things, like fleeting glimpses of my calling or the meaning of life left microscopic under my fingernails when I don't read fine print. I only dream of small things, and they aren't always clear. Like warnings or a windshield, they might get you there on or in an accident, and though they could be as simple as clean me written in dirt, they won't be. As if I could fake the fogginess when I'm too tired in my nightmares of shattered glass, where the fragmented letters are unrecognizable. They're just dream things. Code broken down to grains of sand, and you can't read sand. You can tell time with it, though. You could live on a beach and count it until you're dead, until the little creatures crawl through looking for the you that isn't there. A small disappearance, no big deal. Just the beginning of overgrowth on the path to forgiveness. Misleading seedlings. Like the unfinished message I'll leave to everyone else on the trail. You'll never find me. But if you do, bring help.
I like it. And so why what's the significance of that? Why is how in what ways is that one important to you?
I think I like it because it represents the different emotions that are kind of pivotal to me as a person. Like it's very serious at points. It's darkly humorous at a couple points, like the bit about sand.
Mm-hmm.
Like you can't read it, but you can tell time with it because you can sit on a beach and count it until you're dead, you know, like, so like, I like that it represents the dark humor, the serious, maybe somberness of my personality, but also the end is a lot of fun because it's just like, it ends on a kind of gag, which shows that I'm not like too serious, you know.
Yeah.
I can also be silly, you know, and end a very serious poem on a joke, you know, like take the gamble of ending a serious poem on a joke. And I just love performing that one, especially in front of audiences, because
I like the changing of the voices and the tone, and to really give it,
I can
give more to the feel.
And I can hear their reactions. I love hearing people laugh. Like one of my favorite things in this world to do is make people laugh. So,
same.
Yeah, it's just.
So I got in trouble at school a lot.
I was always getting just the class clown, you know, I was that. Because I feel like laughing together is just, it's one of the
best connections that you could share with someone.
Too. Like it just feels so good to laugh with people. Like you're just sharing in one of the best feelings any of us experiences. Like joy, just like unbridled joy, you know, just laughing hysterically at something. And so I really like that poem because I get to be the clown at the end, you know. I get to get real serious for a second, and then
like it was me,
and then,
the whole time.
I even have like clown noses on me most all the time. Just people think it's weird, but I really like being a clown. And so at a performance last week after I did the poem, I saw your post up and I put the clown nose on.
Yeah.
Because I really think I could end the poem with the nose on. Maybe I'll just put it on right before I end it. But
So at what point do you put it on? And if you
right
before you not what and bring help.
You know, that's what I should have done.
Yeah.
But I did it right after.
What do you believe is the most challenging aspect of being a poet and a writer today?
I think the biggest challenge is kind of just identifying your place in the larger picture. There's so many of us, you know, there's so many poets, there's so many musicians, there's so many
sometimes it almost feels overwhelming, like, oh man, like there's so many people already doing this, like what am I going to bring to the table? Yeah.
And so I think the biggest challenge is figuring out a way to do it that makes you feel good about giving your individual take on it. Like however you find that, we just have to connect with that. We have to connect with the idea that the individual experience reflects the shared experience. And I think, I
like that mindset.
And I think that's the only way we do art, like purely as individuals, is when we're thinking of it as our contribution to the greater understanding of like how people process stuff. Like I want my poems, if nothing else, to just show how somebody like me processes things, because I'm not the only one like me. I have no illusions of being
it's kind of crazy coming up, being younger, thinking like, oh, no one knows how I feel. There's nobody like that. And then you get into your 30s and you're getting older and you're like, dude, there's so many people going through the same things.
And realizing that that's a good thing too.
Yeah.
Like I think
I'm not alone.
I think at some point too, though, as a moody kid, as like an emo kid, I attached myself to that idea of like, people don't understand me, and my friend group did too. We weren't the most trying to make new friends people. We were like, no, you can't be in our crew. Like you're a poser or whatever. And real talk, there was just a lot of posers. Look out for posers, everybody. My number one advice, in all things in life, look out for posers. But we were just a little closed off, you know what I mean? And, thinking that we are so unique, it can be detrimental to connecting with people. And I think that reflects so, so obviously it's so glaring in American culture that like individualism and hyper individualism and this idea that, you are so unique can lead to, unconscionable, just, cognitive dissonance where you allow yourself, to use your own comfort as the deciding factor of how you feel about what's going on in the greater city, state, country, world. And it just, that toxic individualism to me never appealed, like I reached a point where I figured out, I'm like other people and that's good. I want to be like other people, like I want to know that I'm feeling these things that other people are feeling. I want to know that I'm not the only one experiencing this crazy world and thinking this is crazy. I want, and so by finding that, I think I grew to a place of comfort in my writing that I think is the main struggle for all of us, finding your own voice and being comfortable with it being one of many voices like that are going to be heard by whoever's going to hear it.
Yeah. In what ways do you think art contributes to societal well-being? Like, how do you see the role of art building and sustaining a thriving community?
Oh, I think art is essential to any thriving community, because without art, we aren't processing things fully. I think art throughout history has shown that a culture processes its positives and its perils all through the artists of the time. And in order to have a thriving community, you need to have one that is expressive, because through expression, you find new ideas, you find ways to relate to other people,
connect and grow.
And community is the only way through which we develop systems that are based in care and concern and not profit. And at some point in every talk, I just become a radical, my radical,
be you, man.
My radical left-leaning politics comes out. So to me, art is really what should be focused on so much more than what gets our focus here in America, like sports or, professional sports or, and not to say art doesn't get a lot of attention here in America, but it's controlled. It's like a steady, popular culture is pretty sterile and controlled these days. And that was already happening when we were kids. In the 90s, it was becoming, with boy bands and stuff like that, it was becoming very formulaic as those things developed and those ideas developed. So
that's why I like the unsigned artists and people that built from the ground up, like living legends and whatnot.
And we have the benefit of everybody having access to the internet right now, which may not be
that changed things,
may not be the case for the near future. So everybody enjoy the internet as it is, because of people getting appointed to make decisions about the internet are not going to be very smart people. And they will not be making fair decisions for the internet. Like net neutrality will probably...
Oh, that's coming back?
That's probably going to go. Man. It's probably going. They're probably going to get rid of all net neutrality policies. So then all the big websites will just dominate. All the big companies will just dominate the internet. So
that's scary.
Things are gonna be changing here in the coming years. So we'll see how that goes. And with art as a means of dissent, also I feel like is an important role of art and artists to be critics of a society. Like whichever society you find yourself in, when you're an artist, you should be critical of that society and
like how it benefits you and like
how it benefits you, what role you play, how it doesn't benefit other people, how it's structured. I think just being aware. So as an artist, my art is not political. Like I don't really write. I very seldom write explicitly about politics or any sort of that kind of thing in my writing. But as a person, like I'm very hyper aware and very critical, and I have very strong opinions. And everybody always asks me, why don't you write like political poems? Because I'm like, I don't need to dress that stuff up.
And so
I can say that stuff direct. I want to say that stuff directly with no metaphor. I want to be like, I don't like capitalism. I think prisons should be abolished, et cetera, et cetera. So
how do you engage with the community through your work? Is that important to you?
Yeah. I think taking an opportunity, whenever I perform, I make sure to explicitly state something that will let everybody in the room know my stance on, whatever it may be, whatever current event is going on, So I try to do my part by using my art, not as a vehicle itself, but as a vehicle to give me a platform to say something to a crowd. Because I'm not being political or radical in my art, I as an artist have to be radical. I
get that. That makes sense.
And I feel like art through history has shown that artists dissenting against, whether it be political ideals or whatever other sociocultural ideals, artists have always led the push to reflect critically on what's going on.
Man, so I know you mentioned Paula earlier, but we haven't really gotten into it yet. So we'll do so now. How did you come to know about the Tuleburg Press and the Right Place and get involved with Paula and everybody there?
I've known Paula since I was a kid because I knew her sons when we were kids. So we grew up in similar neighborhoods and similar friend groups and stuff. So I always knew who her kids were. And since I was a young kid and she found out I had an interest in poetry, she would ask if I was still writing. She would give me copies of the zine, the zines her friends made. And she would always just keep, talk to me about poetry, keep it, keep me aware that somebody was watching my development.
That's cool.
And so when she started Tuleburg Press, it seemed like a natural extension of what she already did. And I just sort of watched her do all that she did in those first, few years. And then she started talking to me about publishing some of my work. And, eventually, like I said earlier, that came to pass as I got old enough to see it as something I wanted, to have complete for posterity or whatever. So I've always worked, sort of in tandem with her and the greater arts community too. So through my couple decades of, 2.5 decades of performing and hosting events, and then working with nonprofits and stuff like that, we've always ran in the greater literary circle.
Paula was a big nurturer of your
absolutely, and not just
journey.
not just mine, but so many other people's too. And but she was always super attentive to me as a writer. And then as I got older, she would read my stuff and like give me really good feedback, and always be super encouraging, and
like the biggest impact in your artistic career.
And help me proofread. When I gave her the manuscript, she personally proofread through it. I came over and talked to her. She had everything marked in red pen. Like, okay, so what about this? Like, is this how do you wanted this to stay like this, or should we change it? And it was just such a diligence and like I said, attentiveness that showed like I never doubted that she cared about my writing, and she would always like give me such high praise and compliments. It's not like I didn't believe her, but working with her on this book really showed just how much she did care, and how much she has, watched my development as a writer, and especially as a poet. How she, it was really reassuring and reaffirming to know that she, through my career from a budding writer into now whatever I am as a writer who has a book, a published writer, it doesn't, it doesn't qualify me above anybody else just because I have a book, but to know that she was there through the course of all those years, is really cool. And I'm really glad that I got to publish with her for that reason too, because it's Stockton based. She's worked so much for the arts in Stockton. I've personally worked my ass off for the arts in Stockton, and have known so many people who have as well, that it seemed, for a while I had all these dreams of getting published by some big publisher or some very, prestigious publisher of poetry. And never really, I thought, well, I could spend the time trying to submit to all of those places, or I could start somewhere with somebody and, in a place that I have love for, and that I have a connection to. So
can you share like a memorable experience, or a collaboration you've had?
Just like with Stockton?
No, with Paula or the Tuleburg.
I mean, I guess the biggest one just was the book, and it was.
And what's the other one? I don't think we mentioned that one.
So they did a compilation called Center of Attention, Poems on Stockton and San Joaquin. And this is just an anthology with, I think like 50 or something writers from Stockton and the Central Valley. So that's like another cool thing they've started to do, is anthologies that are kind of grabbing all poets from the greater area, and giving opportunities to like young poets and other poets who are looking to establish themselves, in a greater group of poets. And so working with her on the book, I'm also in that anthology as well. But working with her on my book was just a really cool collaboration, because like I said, it was like the culmination of many years of her support, and many years of her telling me like we should publish something, and many years of me going, I don't know. So and turning that into her proofreading it herself, and like, talking to me at length about, how I wanted it to go, she also was, really agreeable with all my ideas for the book itself, for the cover, for the color, the paper. I got to choose the kind of paper.
Truly let you drive just a guiding hand.
Even for the book launch, I got to like plan it and pick who was going to perform with me. And
nice.
When she was talking about snacks, she was like, okay, we usually do like the cheese and meats charcuterie boards or whatever type stuff. Is that all right? And I was like, could we get like munchy snacks, like chips and cookies and little like Rice Krispie treats or something? And so we had like a table full of like munchies.
Nice.
Instead of like meats and cheeses. I didn't want to be so, I was like, I don't know, meats and cheeses seems
I don't want to eat stuff with my pinky up.
Yeah, meats and cheeses aren't my vibe. little Reese's cups and Oreo packs. That's my vibe. So yeah, she's just collaborating with her on the book was a highlight of the experience, and I'm glad I got to do it with her and with Tuleburg and in Stockton too, because Stockton's the spot, dude.
And aside from your personal journey, how would you tell our listeners, like, how does Tuleburg and Paula support and nurture like all the other local poets and artists around?
She just gives unconditional support and encouragement to anyone that comes, that crosses her path. She's not, she's an educator as well. So through her classwork, she encourages people to know. And I've been a student of hers before too, and have just seen the impact, and I've tutored for her as well. And I've seen the impact that she has on students just in the day to day. And then over the course of years, so many of those students come back to her. She always makes time for people. She's always willing to like talk to you, and always willing to encourage and, like you said, nurture the passions we have, especially when it comes to writing. She is an undoubtedly like integral force in the perpetuation of the literary arts in Stockton, and has done so much for me and so many other people, and now has taken to, building something like Tuleburg, which can, as an organization, reach even more people through practices that are based around her as a person. The idea of Tuleburg in the right place and what they strive to do are based on the principles that she holds, and the values that she holds as an educator and as an arts advocate. So I just think she's just an unstoppable and limitless fountain of encouragement for anybody looking to just find their love of writing.
That's awesome.
Yeah. She's awesome.
That's awesome. And so, I was going to ask, well, I guess you kind of already touched on it a while back when I made that joke of don't answer any of my future questions. I was going to ask you, what impact do you hope to have on your readers through your work?
Oh, that's a more specific.
It doesn't necessarily mean just
way of thinking about what I was saying, though.
Not necessarily just your poetry. I mean, all of your plays, your music, all
think
of that.
The impact is I just like to connect, man. I really like to I really love performing, and then people coming up and just being like, hey, I like, because I'm the type of person, like when I see somebody live, I remember like, oh, this line or this part of this song, and I go up. I love to like go up to the people and be like, great show. Like,
love the blah, blah, blah part or whatever.
This song when the guitar did this, or this line of the poem when you said this, or like, yo, that melody that you sang over this part, or whatever it is. Like,
let them know you really.
I just like to know, because that's the exchange. Like that's what art is supposed to do. You're supposed to perform it for people, and they're supposed to respond to it. So like, I like to complete the circle. Like they took the time to perform it for me. Now I can give them my feedback, and that's the circle. So I really love just having that impact in the moment. Like I really love to perform and have somebody come up to me and be like, hey, when you said this, or yo, this line, or yo, this bar, or this whatever, like I really liked that, and it's, oh, I felt that, or something like that. To me is the pinnacle. And I had somebody come up to me on last week at a gig, and he was like, I don't really consider myself a fan of poetry, but listening to yours and just like listening to you talk in between them has made me think, maybe I should give yours and other poetry a shot more. And he bought a book, and
that's
I was
awesome.
like, that's like the best, that's like the best possible response, is having somebody tell me that I helped him maybe check out poetry a lot again, because if he liked mine, then he's going to be blown away by the people who are so much better than me. He's going to be absolutely floored by the people, by the numerous people who are even better than me. Like I'm just here wherever, like there's people who are, so that to me, like, just being that stepping stone is really cool. But even just having somebody come up to you and just being like, yo, I felt that, like, that poem was tight, or that song was dope, or like just having that. And then I've made so many friends that way too, just through people coming up to me or me going up to somebody, and the connections that art makes can be some of the purest. Like when you befriend somebody
when
because
you really connect on something.
Yeah, when you befriend somebody because you heard their art or watched or saw their art and really connected with it, and that then you connect with them as a person. That's like one of the purest ways to meet. So if I can just through my art tell people like, hey, this is what I'm like, this is me as a person, like, and maybe they have fun with it and they vibe with it, then tight. That's chill.
What advice would you give to aspiring poets and writers looking to make their mark in their community?
Stop it. No. Stop writing poetry. Do something more lucrative right now. Go to trade school. No, I think the one thing I would say is I guess it goes back to that struggle of like, what am I doing this for? Where is my place in the greater picture? Don't focus so much on the idea that you have to have a defined purpose or outline. I think to me, something that skateboarding, I think, really taught me was that the process is more important than the end result. And this is, this is why cliches are, the journey is more important than the destination. This is why cliches become cliches, because a lot of them are just axiomatic. They really are. Yeah, they really are things that you should pay attention to. And
cliches are cliches because there's something you realize later. Like, oh, okay.
And so I think taking art as something when you have an end goal, like I want to use my art to get here, or I want to be famous, or I want to do this, or I want to get signed on a label, or I want to, doing art for that is never going to get your purest output. So to me, just doing it for the process, doing it for the fun of writing, doing it because putting words together is sort of like juggling. It's sort of like doing a kickflip backside tailslide on a ledge. Like it's sort of like writing computer code for a video game. It's sort of like drafting blueprints for a house. It's sort of, these things are so not, so they're not as disconnected as people think. And so I think what we can learn from all of them is like the value of process can become the love that you have for your creative output. And when you do that, you're just making stuff. Like you're just like creating stuff, and it's not for any reason other than because you felt it.
Thank you for tuning in to the Right Vibes, Tales from the Tuleburg Press. This wraps up the first episode on K.W.D.C. 93.5 Stockton. I hope today's episode brought you a fresh perspective and a dose of inspiration from Melchor here. And keep supporting local artists. Be sure to join us next time. On the next one, I'll have Jay Scribe, the Journeyman. Join us again for more artistic journeys and stories from different Tuleburg artists, creatives, poets, writers, everybody that has, that creative mindset that's working with Tuleburg Press. Brought to you by the Fierce Mustang Media Group. This is Bones out the booth. Nice.
Bones out the booth.
Yeah. Hey,
that's good, actually.
Buy one from you.
Oh, for sure.
Sign it for me, dude.
Absolutely.
Gotta do it.
Absolutely gotta sign it. That's like been the funnest. That's honestly like been the funnest part of it, is like getting to write weird. I'll be writing like hella random in people's books. Like if I like go home like, this fool's weird.